All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another installment of the Jawbreaker MMA show associated with the Sports Mark Analysts. My name is Adam. That guy over there is Roman. And this week we are doing our part three of our MMA Madness bracket um, that we got from MMAmania.com. Um, so we are going to start off right off the bat with one of the more iconic fights ever in UFC history. Forrest Griffin, Stephan Bonner won Ultimate Fighter. Give us the background.
Okay. So Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonner was the UFC Ultimate Fighter 1 finale on April 9th, 2005. Actually, the anniversary is coming up in a few.
Yeah.
It was the co-main event. Main event was Rich Franklin and Ken Shamrock, but this fight actually felt like the main event. Going into the fight, Forrest Griffin had a 9-2 record. He was on Chuck Liddell's team in the Ultimate Fighter, and Stephan Bonner was 7-1, and he was on Randy Couture's team. Basically, this event actually was make it or break it, pretty much for the UFC. And a lot of people say this fight single-handedly saved the UFC and actually allowed them to have a second season of the Ultimate Fighter and to have more free content broadcasted on TV. But about this fight, it was a really back and forth fight. Both guys were going at it. Lots of exchanges. One point, Forrest was hurt, Bonner was hurt, and I don't know, just somehow these guys just stood there and exchanged, and none of them seemed to go down. It was very hard to score, but as far as more aggressive, I guess it was Forrest. That and I would say 29-28. It was the right call for Forrest, but Stephan Bonner also was. You could say he was the winner as well. Got a contract. You can't like yeah, it's hard to say someone has to lose in this fight. It was so entertaining that both guys deserve to get the UFC contract. And then you want me to do the next fight?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention. And then that's going up against Stipe Miocic and Junior Dos Santos.
Yes, this fight, Junior Dos Santos versus Stipe Miocic, the first part, UFC on Fox 13, December 13, 2014. So Dos Santos was coming off a brutal TK loss to Cain Velasquez. It was their trilogy fight for the title back in 2013. And Miocic was riding a 3-fight win streak. This is when Stipe was becoming well known after he took a short notice fight against Roy Nelson back in 2013, and he became more noticed on that after that impressive win over Roy Nelson, because at that time Roy Nelson was the guy people feared of, had great knockout power, and Stipe Miocic was able to dominate him in all 3 rounds. This fight here was also hard hitting between each other. There were times where Dos Santos was rocked, but he was able to land more punches on Stipe, was able to land more damage, able to control the fight. Um, Between these two, I went with Griffin and Bonner to advance.
All right. Yeah, Griffin Bonner. I mean, when you talk about like some of the biggest fights of the sport, not just in the UFC. I mean that's got to come to mind. Like you said, it just did so much for the sport, for the UFC. It it did save them and brought like a lot of eyes into the sport. Just two guys on from a little reality show who just gave it their all. I mean, they were just exhausted by the end of that. It was like it was perfect. I mean, if you're Dana White, the Fertitas, like if you're you've got a stake in the UFC and you see a fight like that happen, especially in a time where it really needed, you're very happy after seeing it because it was just an all-out war. It's exactly what they needed. Then yeah, Stipe GDS. It was yeah, it was nice back and forth. I mean, Stipe was actually I'd say at the beginning he was winning the fight, right? He
Well, I think JDS had the first round. I mean, it was close. It was
It was
very
close,
close. Yeah.
but Stipe did get I think he got a takedown or
Yeah, he
two
did get a
toward
takedown.
the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, but then yeah, pretty much once JDS knocked Stipe down in round three, it was like from there on out he pretty much just had control.
Mhm.
I feel still close enough. You know, really entertaining to watch, but for this spot, I don't think you can compete with Griffin Bonner.
Mhm.
It was just a whole other level. It was one of the just most memorable fights ever.
Mhm.
All right. So up next, the matchup we have is Dustin Poirier. Oop, yep. Dustin Poirier going up against Justin Gaethje.
Mhm.
That was confusing. Dustin and Justin. Um, and up against Brock Lesnar and Shane Carwin.
Yes. So Dustin Poirier against Justin Gaethje was UFC Fox 29, April 14, 2018. Poirier was on a two-fight win streak, um, and Justin Gaethje was coming off a TKO loss to Eddie Alvarez, which also was was a really good fight between them two. In this fight, you had Dustin Poirier who controlled the first two rounds, landing crazy punches on yeah, Poirier landing crazy punches on Gaethje. At one point, I thought the fight was gonna be stopped, but Gaethje is a slow starter, and he was able to get the rhythm back in round three, and in round four he was doing well, but Poirier was able to um, land a nice was it I believe a uppercut or a hook.
Um, I know it was a left hand. I think it was a
Yeah,
left. Hmm.
he landed TKO'd Gagey in the fourth round, which brought him one step closer to compete for the title. But I think he fought Eddie Alvarez next to solidify it.
Mhm.
And then Brock Lesnar against Shane Carwin, UFC 116, July 3rd, 2010. Brock Lesnar was on a three-fight win streak and was looking to defend his title for a second time. He was coming off a TKO win over Frank Mir back in 2009. So he was off for a year due to let me try to say I can't say it actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
diverticulitis. Yeah.
yeah, that. So he was fighting that for a year.
Yeah.
On the
That's
other
right.
hand, Shane Carwin was on a 12 fight win streak, 12-0 overall, 5-0 in the UFC, coming off a knockout victory over Frank Mir for the interim title at that time.
Yeah.
And going into this fight, all of his fights did not go past the first round. So it was interested to see how he would handle Brock Lesnar. And actually, in the first round, it almost looked like he was going to beat Brock in the first round by knockout. He landed a nice punch that got Brock down. He just pounded him continuously in the first round. And going into the second round, you could see he was gassed just because of all the energy he used up, and Brock Lesnar was able to go for a takedown and just lock in that arm triangle and tap him out. And I think that right there was probably Brock Lesnar's greatest win in
Mhm.
his career, I would say.
Yeah.
So I picked between those two. I went with Lesnar and Carwin on that one.
All right. Um, yeah, Poirier Gaethje. Yeah, that was yeah, like you said, Dustin was he was definitely being the aggressor at first. Came out really hot. Um, but Gaethje was getting some good leg kicks going on throughout the whole fight as well. So he was coming back with that at first. up until I think the third round, where like Gaethje actually rocked Poirier,
Mhm.
um, and he was having a pretty good round. It was close, but he had then I think he got a point taken away for an eye poke. Um, so and then ultimately, like you said, Poirier ended up hurting Gaethje with a left punch, and he won by TKO. Um, Good, close, aggressive fight up until then. Really, really good main event. Um, and I think it was in Arizona too, right? Where
Yeah.
Gaethje's from. Um, so yeah, really huge fight for Gaethje. Um, and then you have Carwin Lesnar, who yeah, that first round, Carwin just when he hurt Brock and got him on the ground, he was like hit him heavy shots. I mean, he hits so hard. I mean, that was easily a 10-8 round.
Yeah. Hmm.
He just really beat him up. And it really made you think, because you said, right, this was the first fight since being out,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, oh man, like this might be it. Maybe Brock's not the same, maybe he's
Right.
not a rebound. But yeah, but the problem is after that first round, Carwin seemed to just totally gas himself out. I mean,
Hmm.
he gave it all he got. Um, and then Lesnar took him down and was able to just fairly quickly get in that arm triangle. I mean, it was a great comeback, especially, I mean, after that 10-8 round, he got busted open. You know, people, especially at the time, you didn't see Brock Lesnar, get beat down like that. That was just something else. So yeah, I'm gonna agree actually. Just for the way it went down and for that comeback and how huge it was and how huge Lesnar was, I'm gonna stay the same. I'm going with Lesnar Carwin.
Okay.
All right. Next up, matchup we have between Eddie Alvarez and I was gonna say Tyson Chandler, Michael Chandler, one first one going up against Roger Huerta and Clay Guida.
All right. So Eddie Alvarez and Michael Chandler, for the first time that they met, Bellator 58, November 19, 2011. Eddie Alvarez at that time was on a 7 fight win streak, and he was 7-0 in Bellator overall, and he was looking to make his second title defense. Chandler, he was 8-0 and won the Bellator lightweight tournament to be the number one contender. This fight right away opened up as a war. Chandler was able to catch Eddie, and at one point the ref was about to step in to stop the fight in the first round, but
Yeah,
Eddie Alvarez was able to compose himself and make his way back in the second round. Third round, he had Chandler hurt. He was cut up, bleeding, and then going into the fourth round, Chandler was able to catch Eddie and then get him in a, I believe, rear naked choke, right?
yeah,
He was able to get him in a submission there. And I think right there, that fight alone made Michael Chandler really well known and probably made him the face of Bellator ever since then. Like a lot of people started to pay attention to this guy.
yeah. Because
Uh,
until then, Alvarez was the
yeah,
face, right? I
he
mean, so
was.
yeah,
Yeah.
he took him out.
And then you have Roger Huerta against Clay Guida, the Ultimate Fighter finale, 6 December 8th, 2007. At that time, Roger Huerta was on a 16 fight win streak, was 6-0 in the UFC, and it was his fifth fight in 2007. And I believe he was the first fighter to ever make it to a Sports Illustrated magazine cover as well. Um, and then Clay Guida was uh, coming off of a split decision win. So yeah, this fight in the first two rounds, in the first round especially, Clay Guida was having massive control on Roger Huerta. Great takedowns, great ground and pound. He almost knocked him out too. He caught him with a nice uppercut that put Huerta down, but Huerta was able to recover. And then the third round, Huerta was able to land a nice. Was it a body shot or to get Guida down?
Um,
I know it was a
I
fun
know
fight.
I know he was hitting some body shots, but I can't
Yeah,
remember exactly.
but he was able to get Guida down and go for that rear naked choke. It was 50 seconds in the third round, so
Yeah.
it was a spectacular comeback win for Huerta.
Mhm.
But between these two, I went with Eddie Alvarez and Michael Chandler. It was a great fight, and actually, I think that fight, let alone put Bellator on the map to show, UFC is not the only organization out there. And after watching that fight personally, I started watching Bellator a lot more from there.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, both fights ending in rear naked choke. Yeah, Alvarez Chandler won. That was yeah, I agree. That was like it was a really good fight. Like I forget how good of a fight that was until I watched it a couple of days ago. It was it's one of the better fights ever. I mean Chandler came, especially particularly for Bellator. Um, Chandler, you know, came out and he, yeah, like you said, that fight it was almost stopped in the first round. But then Chandler's out coming, get Alvarez on the ground later on in the second round. Third round, Alvarez, gets the best of him probably. Um, but then, yeah, Chandler just he ended up just being able to use his wrestling, I think, a little better, and eventually, got that full mount to the rear naked choke. Yeah, like you said, it really showed that it really showed people who Michael Chandler is, and that he belonged at the top tier kind of guys in the sport. Then Huerta Guida, yeah, I think the story of this was like, basically Huerta was just, he was doing better on the feet, and Guida was doing better wrestling and grappling. Um, and yeah, the first couple rounds, aside from a few back and forths and decent strikes by Huerta, I feel like Guida was just having his way with takedowns. He was taking Huerta down at will
Mm.
a few times. Um, yeah, and it wasn't look like it was going Huerta's way up until that third round, and yeah, all it took was just him putting down Guida once and just quickly getting on his back to a rear naked choke. Two very good fights. Um, Another, Huerta and Guida is also another one that I don't know. You can't. I kind of forget about totally, to be honest. I remember once I saw this on the list, I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of remember. But then you watch it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was
Mhm.
like, that was a big comeback and a lot of excitement over there. Um, but yeah, I feel Alvarez Chandler one was just such a classic. Um, it was yeah, the entertainment factor was just really big, and it was just really big for Bellator in general. So I chose that to go on to the next round. All right. So up next we have Robert Whitaker and Yoel Romero 2 going up against Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier 2.
All right. So Robert Whitaker against Yoel Romero to UFC 225, June 9th, 2018. So Whitaker previously fought Yoel Romero for the interim title back in 2017 of July. He was supposed to defend the title against Luke Rockhold, but he did pull out due to having staph infection in his stomach. So that's when Yoel came in to fight Rockhold. He failed to make weight in that fight for the interim title, but he did get a second round knockout. And then coming into this fight, he also missed the weight again. So for Whitaker, win or lose, it wasn't really for the belt. It was just fighting for pride to see,
Yeah.
that he could beat Romero again. And for Romero is, all right, if I beat him, I will get a trilogy fight, and I'm definitely the number one contender. And this fight actually went the opposite of how the first one went, where Whitaker for the first two rounds was having good control over Romero, landing kicks, oblique kicks especially. was getting some nice combos in. And then in the third round, that's where Yoel was able to rock Whitaker and put him down and just go at him. And then we come to find out that Whitaker's right hand is gone, is broken. He could only throw with his left and just only do kicks. And there was some point of time even in the late round and fifth round too, where Romero had Whitaker in trouble, but he was able to pull off a split decision win over Romero in this one. And then Dustin Poirier against Max Holloway 2, UFC 236, April 13, 2019. They previously fought back at UFC 143 in 2012. Holloway took that fight on short notice and was his debut fight. Poirier won by triangle armbar in the first round, and then Poirier coming into this one was coming in on a 4-fight win streak, coming off of a TKO win. He was coming off a TKO win over Eddie Alvarez to avenge their no contest, and Max Holloway was on a 13-fight win streak and was current featherweight champion. He was coming off an impressive TKO win over Brian Ortega. So this fight was for the interim lightweight title. Winner would eventually fight Khabib. And right away, Holloway went for the attack against Poirier. He had him rocked, but Poirier was able to counter that and get Max in trouble. And this fight was back and forth, a lot of action, and it was tough to score because both these guys had their moments. Eventually, Poirier did win by unanimous decision to become the interim champion. With this fight, I chose Poirier and Holloway to advance.
Oh, okay. So Whitaker Romero 2. Yeah, I felt that Whitaker, he was starting off really well. Romero was kind of doing his classic, he was just waiting to explode basically at first, especially in the first round. Yeah, I feel like he was almost just feeling him out, seeing his timing, and if an opportunity was open, he would pounce and just explode out of nowhere, which is what he does. I remember second round he got a little more aggressive. But still, Whitaker doing what he had to do to probably, well, it was close. It was close enough starting in the second round. But yeah, third round, Yoel hit him with like a big right hand. But Whitaker was able to recover really well. Still fire off a few shots. I think he even, not sure if he landed it, but he had a leg kick. A head kick, I believe, at the end. But then, then Romero was just laying it on him towards the end of the fight, basically. Both of them were pretty tired, exhausted towards the end. The fact that Whitaker was able to take those shots and stay alive, keep going, really just showed how much heart and great of a fight it was on both ends, really. And it was a split decision win for Whitaker, rightfully so, because it could have. And honestly, the way the fight ended, it probably could have gone either way. He wouldn't have been mad at it. But it was a very close fight. And Holloway Poirier too. I think it was just a matter of, Holloway. He had some good combos. He was throwing a lot of volume. But Poirier was doing great. Both of them doing really well in striking. It's just the fact that Poirier he's just a bigger guy. He looked really big. He looked a lot bigger, and he had some really big power too in his punches. The fact that Holloway was able to he hit a lot of punches. He did really well taking a punch. He was definitely showed on his face towards the end of the fight. But he hung in there, but I just think that the size advantage was just a little too much for him. So But as far as entertainment and the showing all the will of heart that both guys had, I personally went with Whitaker Romero too. On to the next. All right. Up next, all right, was actually a substitute to the original bracket. Um, Wei Li Zhang, or vice versa, against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. That fight was put in there almost kind of last minute before the bracket started. Initially, it was Liddell Vanderlei. So we have that going up against George St. Pierre and BJ Penn 1.
So Zhang Wei Li against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, last pay-per-view event, UFC 248, March 7th this year. It's the co-main event. More like it felt like that should have been the main event had we known that Romero and Adesanya would be a boring fight.
Yeah.
but
Just a
but
step below, a step below Derek Lewis and Ngannou, or a
yes,
step above rather.
yeah. So this one was Zhang Wei Li was on a 20-fight win streak and 4-0 in the UFC. And last win, she won the title over Jessica Andrade, first round TKO. And then Joanna Jędrzejczyk was coming off a decision win over Michelle Waterson to become the number one contender. And Joanna, going into this fight, she was known as one of the most dominant champions in that division with 5 title defenses until losing by knockout to Rose Namajunas. She did lose to her again in the rematch. She did try to go up in weight, challenge Valentina Shevchenko for the flyweight title. Lost that fight. So this was her 3rd title shot overall. But yeah, from the beginning of the 1st round to the 5th round, lots of exchanges, like back and forth action, lots leg kicks. Wei Li was able to put a hematoma on Joanna. She really looked like Frankenstein actually after the fight was over. It was hard to score, but when I rewatched it, I gave the first 2 rounds to Wei Li. Round 3 was Joanna. Round 4 was Joanna, but round 5, I think that solidified the fight for Wei Li once she cracked her nose, broke Joanna's nose, and just took control of that part of the round. Probably one of the best female fights to this date. And George St. Pierre against BJ Penn, UFC 58, the first one. March 4th, 2006. It was the 3rd fight on the pay-per-view. GSP was on a 4-fight win streak since losing to Matt Hughes for the welterweight title. And BJ was coming off of a win over Renzo Gracie at K1 organization. It was his first fight back since he defeated Matt Hughes. So his first time in the UFC. He fought back in UFC 46 in 2004, where he won the welterweight title from Matt Hughes. So the first round was more BJ Penn controlling the fight, was being more dominant over George St. Pierre. GSP looked frustrated after the first round. BJ Penn was very controlling. And then from there, GSP was able to do what he does best, is go for the takedown and smother the opponent and not let him back up. Same thing in the 3rd round. GSP was able to add pressure and have BJ Penn tired, and GSP was able to win this fight by split decision. I was surprised that was a split decision watching
Yeah.
back at it. But between these fights, it's a no-brainer for me. I went with Wei Li and Jędrzejczyk to move on.
Yeah, Zhang Weilin and Joanna. Obviously, like we said before when we recapped it, it's the best fight in the women's UFC history. Just one of the best MMA fights ever. Um, really, really could have gone either way at all. I think it just came down to Zhang Weili. Just she's a hard hitter. She did more damage. Definitely. I'd say that was pretty noticeable just by the look of Joanna's forehead. It's pretty noticeable she got that. It was just all time classic. You don't get too many fights you think of. Like if you want to watch a fight and you want to like really see two fighters get at it, that's one of them. Between that and what you mentioned earlier, Bonner Griffin, um, at least one more that we're going to get to later. There's some of those fights that if you really just want to get hyped up after watching a fight, that's one of those you go with. Um, then you have GSP Pen 1. Um, BJ had, like you said, a very good first round. He busted up GSP pretty good in the first. But then, once the second round started, second and third, GSP just used his takedowns. He pretty much used that to secure a decision. I agree. I didn't understand why there was a split. It's kind of weird. I think it was outside of the first round, it was pretty dominant by GSP. But anyway, yeah. You can't pick against Zhang Weili and Joanna. It's just
Right.
like I said, one of the best. So yeah, I have that definitely going on to the next round. All right. Next, we have Matt Hughes and Frank Trigg 2 going up against Forrest Griffin and Quentin Rampage Jackson.
So Matt Hughes, Frank Trigg 2, UFC 52, April 16, 2005. It was the third fight on the pay-per-view for the welterweight title. They fought back in UFC 45 in 2003. Matt Hughes won by first round submission by rear naked choke to defend his title for the fifth time. From there, he was on a 2-fight win streak and won the vacant welterweight title against GSP George St. Pierre by submission. And Frank Trigg was on a 2-fight win streak since losing to Matt Hughes. And this fight, basically, it was almost the same way how the first one went. Frank Trigg in the beginning was dominant, was able to get um, get control of the fight, was able to get on top of Matt Hughes and go for the submissions. Well, in the first one at least, and then in the second one, he rocked Matt Hughes. I know he landed a groin shot and then landed a nice uppercut to get Matt Hughes down,
Yeah,
and he had him hurt. I
big
thought the
shot.
ref, yeah, I thought the ref was gonna stop the fight there, but Frank Trigg was able to weather the storm and just pick up Frank Trigg and go for that famous slam that he does. And then he went for that rear naked choke and submitted him almost towards the end of the round. I think that fight, those two fights, put Matt Hughes on the map to make Matt Hughes who he really was. A lot of people will go back to those two fights. Actually, they had a big rivalry between each other.
Yeah,
And then Quinton Jackson, Rampage versus Forrest Griffin, UFC 86, July 5th, 2008. Quinton Jackson was on a 6-fight win streak and looking to defend the title for the second time. And Forrest was on a 2-fight win streak. And he just came off of a impressive win over Shogun by a third-round submission in his prior fight. And that Shogun was one of the best fighters coming out of Pride, so a win over him, you definitely got to give a guy a title shot for that impressive win.
yep.
This in the first round, Rampage was able to land a nice uppercut to hurt Forrest and put him down. It was he was hurt. I thought Jackson was going to be able to stop him there, but in the second round, Forrest was able to land a nasty leg kick that hurt Rampage, and then he took him down, and that was easily a 10-8 round. From there on, round 3, 4, and 5, it was very close, a very close fight for those rest of the 3 rounds. But as far as pressing the action, who was able to control the fight, now I could see after watching the fight again, I could see why the judges gave it to Forrest to win the light heavyweight title. So between these two fights, I picked Forrest Griffin and Rampage Jackson to move on.
All right. Yeah, Trig Hughes too. There's a lot of bad blood going to that.
Mhm.
It was the whole face off they had right before the fight started was great. I mean, everyone was just you can feel it just watching it. And people in the arena, and everyone was so pumped to see this go down again. Um, and yeah, Trig was just yeah he hit Hughes so hard, and I mean it looked like he was going to put him away early.
Yeah.
And the fact that Hughes was able to once Trig was on him and going for a submission. The fact that he was able to just pop out of nowhere and reverse, pick him up and like go from coast to coast, and drop him with that slam. That was just you know also one of the most iconic moments in MMA history. Um, and then get him down and then he gets the win with the submission. That was just it was crazy. There was just so much energy to begin with. I mean, it was only one round, but there was just, I think that's almost why it was such a huge moment because there was just so much energy, and the crowd was that's like right from the beginning. So it didn't take long for the action to start, um, which also in turn didn't take long for it to finish. So that was just a great moment all around. Um, Griffin Jackson. Yeah, Rampage had that big. What was it? It was an uppercut, right, in the first round.
Hmm.
Really,
Yeah.
really rocked Forrest Griffin. And then, yeah, I mean, Forrest was able to recover pretty well. He was using his leg kicks a lot on Rampage. He was really messing up Rampage's lead leg, using that through the entire fight, and that definitely slowed him down. Um, but yeah, like you said, I mean, for the most part, it was actually a really close fight because as the fight went on, and got things did slow down a little bit, but it still made things pretty tight, pretty close towards the end. Um, so definitely a close fight. Um, but I went with Hughes and Trigg, uh, even though I mean even though it wasn't as much of a war, a back and forth like Griffin Rampage was. I just think the moment was so big.
Hmm.
It was just iconic, and then that alone it won me over there. So I went with that to go on to the next. Alrighty, and next up we got Frankie Edgar against Gray Maynard 3, going up against Sakuraba and Hoist Gracie.
So Frankie Edgar and Gray Maynard 3, UFC 136, October 18, 2011. These both of them coming off of the second time they fought. It was a draw. And once again, same thing. Gray Maynard was able to catch Frankie with a nice uppercut, get Frankie hurt in the first round. Ref is close to stopping the fight. I think Rosenthal was the ref in that fight, I believe.
I
And
think you might have.
he does a great job. He lets the guys keep continuing to fight. Gives Frankie a chance to recover. And Frankie was hurt multiple times in that round, and easily another 10-8 round. And you would
Mhm.
think again, here we go again. This might be another draw if Gray Maynard is able to win another round.
Yep.
But from rounds two to four, Frankie was able to control Gray Maynard. Was able to land nice jabs, leg kicks, control the pace. It almost seemed like Gray Maynard was getting frustrated. Couldn't believe that you know he can't land anything on Frankie to knock him out. I think he gassed out a little bit towards third round, and then in the fourth round, Frankie was able to catch Maynard with a nice, I think it was an uppercut,
Yeah.
caught him with an uppercut and just put him away almost towards the end of the fourth round. And you know, at that time they were even. I thought they were gonna fight again, but their paths went a different way. Frankie was able to defend his lightweight title and move on. And then we have Sakuraba against Royce Gracie. It was Pride Grand Prix 2000 finals, May 1st, 2000. It was the first fight of the main card, and this was a special fight. It was a special rules
There were
requested
more
by the
fights.
Gracies. Huh?
There were more fights after that one.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
It was a special request by the Gracies. No ref stoppages, no round limit, and only way to win was by knockout submission. So it was almost basically like one of those underground fights that you have,
like a
and
movie.
yeah, and honestly,
It's like old low budget martial arts movie.
So before I go over this fight, the background of them, Sakuraba was on an 8-fight win streak, 7-0-1 in Pride, and Royce Gracie was coming in 12-0-1 and looking to avenge the loss that his brother Royler Gracie had against Sakuraba. So this fight, each round was 15 minutes, and it went on 6 rounds for 90 minutes in total. And yes, I watched the whole thing because there's nothing to do these days now. So I watched this fight, and I'm thinking, this fight could go on for hours. If not, it could go the whole day the way they were going. And
might as well have, yeah.
Yeah, the first 2 rounds, literally, there was no action. It was Royce Gracie just holding Sakuraba in the clinch, was controlling him, and then finally in the third round, fourth round, there was some action where Sakuraba was able to land some damage, and I believe it was either the fifth or sixth round where Sakuraba did that famous jump, the monkey jump, and then just land a punch on Gracie while he was on the ground. And after the sixth round, his team threw in Gracie's team threw in the towel. He was unable to continue. I think he busted up his leg. So Sakuraba was able to advance. Yes, in this tournament, that there was more fights to go on. So between those two, I know it's crazy, but I went with Sakuraba and Gracie because you're never gonna get a fight that's gonna last 90 minutes. That's almost equivalent to one pay-per-view.
Yeah. It was very special and unique, I'll give you that. But yeah, Edgar Maynard 3. Yeah, so much coming into this. People wanted to see a clear winner after the draw in the second fight. And yeah, like you said, it was it looked like it was the first fight all over again at first, just because Frankie was on his way out, and he was trying to survive in round one. Except once they got to round two and beyond, Frankie actually he took control, and again he recovered so well, probably even better than the first time, and yeah, he was able to take advantage of maybe Maynard gassing out a little bit, and then yeah, putting him away in the fourth, which was just huge to end that trilogy. And yeah, Sakuraba Gracie. It was I admit I did not watch the entire fight, so yeah, you can say I maybe I'm not the best to give an opinion, but I did watch multiple highlights, and I did read up plenty about it as well. And yeah, I mean, from what I could see, it was not the most action packed. It was, it's very memorable. It's very special because of what it was, because of Royce Gracie wanting to get revenge, wanted to make pretty much make the rules to show that it was almost like an ego thing. Like he wanted to show that that they were superior, or he is superior than Sakuraba. And Sakuraba's not this, wouldn't go on to be the Gracie killer. Um, but but it just if it just maybe would had a little more going on for a little more action, a little. Especially, I mean, I kind of wish they would have just made it a shorter regular fight. Maybe it would have made for a more action, more of a pace to be pushed,
Hmm.
in my opinion. But yeah, I went with Edgar Main with three. It was just a really cool moment to end the trilogy. It was and just a way to put the nail in the coffin for that. Um, so all right, now we have the last matchup in this round. We have the heavyweights Mark Hunt up against Bigfoot Antonio Bigfoot Silva one. Going up against yeah, these are all heavyweights going up
Yeah.
against Travis Brown and Andrei Arlovsky.
So Mark Hunt against Antonio Silva, Bigfoot Silva, UFC Fight Night 2033, no, December 7, 2013. Both these guys coming off of a loss. Mark Hunt was coming off of a loss, knockout loss to Junior Dos Santos, and Bigfoot Silva was coming off of a loss to Cain Velasquez for the heavyweight title. So, what perfect way is then putting these two guys together and having them fight, which made turned into one of the best heavyweight fights out there. Uh, Brutal. The first round was just the test out round. Second round, so Bigfoot was able to get some control, but from rounds 3, 4, and 5, it's just a brawl, lots of blood. Easily a 10-8 round in round 5 for Mark Hunt over Bigfoot. Bigfoot looked like he was out on his feet. Round 4, that's where Bigfoot was cut up Mark Hunt, and it was like a puddle of blood just coming out. Round 3, Mark Hunt was able to take control of Bigfoot after losing the first 2 rounds, and like after that fight was over, I didn't even know who won that fight. Honestly, I said if it's a draw, this is great because none of those guys deserve to lose. So it was a draw. Unfortunately, at the end, after the fight, we find out that Bigfoot tested positive for high levels of testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
So that turned into a no contest for him, but a draw for Mark Hunt still remained on his record.
Mm-hmm.
And then Travis Brown versus Andrei Arlovsky, UFC 187, May 23rd, 2015 was the second fight on the pay-per-view. These guys used to be teammates. They were close friends. So I guess it was kind of weird of them fighting each other. But Travis Brown was coming off of a TKO win over Brandon Schaub, and Arlovsky was on a 4-fight win streak. He was 2-0 at the UFC, second stint back at the UFC, and he was coming off of a impressive knockout victory over Bigfoot Silva. So yeah, in the first round, Arlovsky landed a nice punch on Travis Brown. He was able to rock him in the first part of the first round. Arlovsky was controlling Brown, just hurting him, and the ref gave Travis a lot of time. He didn't stop the fight; was able to let him continue, and Travis Brown was able to land a nice punch on Arlovsky where Arlovsky went down. I thought the fight was over. I thought he was down and out. Arlovsky recovered pretty fast and just landed a nice. I think it was it a hook? I think it was a hook.
I think so.
Uh,
Yeah.
landed a nice hook and just punched out Travis Brown to win. I think that was at that time it was a big upset uh, that Arlovsky won, and basically he looked like the old Arlovsky. Um, but with these two fights, I went with Mark Hunt and Bigfoot Silva to advance in this one.
Yeah, Hunt and Bigfoot. That was just nice, classic heavyweights going at it. I mean, both guys. It was very appropriate that it was a draw. Both guys just hitting hard. Um, guys who give big shots but can also take a big shot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was great. It was and that was that in Australia
Yes.
too, right? Yeah, yeah. It was yeah. Hunt had like a home field advantage kind of thing going for him. It was I mean, it was surprising to see uh, both guys still standing. at the end. Yeah, you would think for sure with the way they were slowing down. I mean, slowing down as far as not like they weren't throwing, but they were just not coming out nearly as fresh as they were at
Mhm.
the beginning. The fact that it kept going was just really impressive. Um, Total dogfight at the end. They were showing a huge amount of respect for each other. Hugging, getting emotional. So very appropriately a draw. Um, great heavyweight fight. Um, Brown and Arlovsky. Yeah, Travis Brown. I mean, he was just looking like he was, he was having his way with Arlovsky at one point. Um, like you said, he put him down, and Arlovsky, he was known for not having the best chin. So you would think when you see something like that, and he goes down, you would think, all right, this is the beginning of the end. But the fact that Arlovsky was able to recover as fast as he did was, I mean, I thought was very unexpected. Um, did that and yeah, ended up hitting Brown with a few hard shots of his own, and he was just on wobbly legs for a long time.
Mhm.
I mean, he was in there way past. It's like his legs were the only thing just keeping him like going, just walking around because it looked like he was just on the brink of just totally shutting down. Somehow his legs stayed straight up enough for him not to fall. Um, so yeah, it was a nice unexpected win, nice little comeback. But yeah, between these two, I don't think you go against Bigfoot and Mark Hunt. That was just a great classic overall brawl of heavyweights. So I have that going on as well. Alrighty, so that ends that round for that quad. So now we'll go on and announce our winners for the next round. So
All
you
right.
go ahead. Who'd you have first?
All right. So between Griffin and Bonner and Lesnar and Carwin, I went with Griffin and Bonner on that one. Then with you want me to go through all of them till the next round?
Yeah, we know. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Then Eddie Alvarez and Michael Chandler against Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway. I went with Max Holloway and Poirier on that fight. With Zhang, Weili Zhang, and Forrest Griffin and Quinn Jackson, I have Weili Zhang and Joanna move on. And Sakurabu and Gracie and Mark Hunt and Silva, I have Mark Hunt and Silva move on on that fight.
All right. All right. So then I've got between Griffin Bonner and well, between Griffin Bonner and Lesnar Carwin, I had yeah, I had Griffin Bonner going on. Then I had Alvarez Chandler one and yeah, Whitaker Romero two, and I picked Whitaker Romero two. Between Zhang Wei Li and Hughes Trigg two, I went with Zhang Wei Li and Joanna. My bad. Um, and then between Edgar Maynard three and Hunt Silva one, I went with Hunt Silva.
Okay. And then from there, I went with so Griffin and Bonner against Poirier and Holloway. I went with Griffin and Bonner, and between Weili Zhang and Joanna, and Mark Hunt and Silva, I went with Weili Zhang and Joanna.
All right. And yeah, between Griffin Bonner and Whitaker Romero two, I went with Griffin Bonner. And between Zhang Weili, Joanna, and Hunt Silva, I went with Zhang Weili and Joanna.
So for the winner of that bracket, I went with Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner. Reason why: this was the fight that made the UFC what it is. A lot of people started watching it. There were stories of people calling their friends and family saying, "Turn on this fight on TV. It's the craziest thing I'm watching," and everyone just tuned in. And from there on, I think that's what made the UFC what it is today. So that's why I chose that fight.
All right. Yeah, so we ended up same two. I think honestly, it looked like things were going that way. It was almost kind of easy looking at the landscape of it that things were going to go that way anyway. Um, I yeah, between Griffin Bonner and Zhang Weili and Joanna, I actually went with Zhang Weili and Joanna. And it may be, I mean, it was really close. I could pick either one easily, but it was just and maybe it is a recency bias kind of thing, but I just think maybe because there was a title on the line, um, because it was 5 rounds. It was just two kind of similar fights. I mean, a lot of striking, back and forth, very close. Banged up, bloodied, um, but both showing just crazy amount of heart. Um, just something about Zhang Weili and Joanna. I think just stood out a little more for me, even though Bonner and Griffin is just so iconic, and it is it is like one of the main, if not the main, fight. Their poster fight for the company, you
Mm-hmm.
could say, is that fight. But I mean, you can almost make a case that Zhang Weili and Joanna is almost that new age like fight, like that goes right along with it for like a new generation, um, especially being a women's fight. It really shows just how far the sport has come to have a fight like that. So that's why I went with that going on to the finals there. All right. So, all right. So that's it for that entire quad. Next week, we're going to finish it off, our last section of the quad, and then announce our winners of the entire bracket. Along with that, we are also going to be finally breaking down some fights coming up before the UFC 249 card. That is coming up a week from this Saturday. It's actually happening in California on Indian reservation. Um, it's yeah, I mean, it's not the fight we wanted initially, but your beggars can't be choosers in times like this, and it's still a really really good card, really really good main event with Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje. So we'll be breaking that down and doing a preview and predictions. So all right, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you guys next week.